I don't know yet. So that's it.
Thrilling tale.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Game Over Greggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
So that's where I pick up the story, right?
Yeah, tell me some Blake Shelton
fan, right? I come up from the other angle where I was like, I never really liked Gavin Rossdale. Like, he just didn't seem like the kind of guy to me that she should be with. Yeah. She meets this Blake girl. She meets this Blake Shelton guy,
and
instantly they look like they got this chemistry,
they got the sparks.
right? And like it just makes sense now. You know, it makes sense.
Over there, the pure one at Tim Gettys.
Let Tim motherfucker
making banana references.
Not just banana. They're Gwen Stefani. They're quality Gwen Stefani references, Greg.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a song.
Then over here, Christmas in October, Joey Noel.
Oh, hello.
Christmas in
It took me a second. I was afraid I wasn't going to remember it. I haven't done an introduction over there. And then over there, the fifth best friend, the rarity these days at the show, the table, whatever you want to call it, Patreon supporter, Justin Toft.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
How are you, Justin?
Good.
Thank you for coming by.
Oh, of course.
You supported us to come on this dumb show.
Yep.
Do you regret it yet?
Not yet. We'll see how this goes.
Because we took you to Wild Wings before this.
Yeah.
You've been bumming around today. You've seen the shows going on. And also, you're very fascinating. You're working on your own whiskey.
Yeah, along with some friends of mine, yeah.
No, just you. You told me it was all you. You were the man who made it all happen.
Take credit for it all.
Well, okay.
You're not gonna say credit for it. Yeah, that's awesome. How long you been listening to us?
Since Beyond Days.
Thank you.
Kevin Smith episode is when I found Kind of Funny.
Oh, cool.
And been a fan ever since.
Oh, so you were a fan of Smodcast first? Is that why, or no?
Yes.
So you heard him on Beyond, and then were you listening to Kevin Smith and heard me, and you were like, I got to be a fan of these people.
I don't know if it was you so
Just
much.
Nick.
It's like there was other things happening on that
And
episode.
I
No,
was in the episode.
you were in the episode for sure.
Certainly remember myself being the standout component of the episode. I might be remembering that incorrectly.
Yeah, I feel like you
but
are.
I feel like Kevin, he calls me all the time. Just, when are you gonna come back? When are you gonna come back? I was like, dude, I don't have time for you.
Yeah, there seemed to be a chemistry there.
All right. Well, thank you, Justin. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a
Dude, I set it up for you.
Justin, you son of a bitch! You claim me a fan.
We're doing it
He's
again.
staring me in the eyes, and I'm like, what the?
We're doing it full
It's the
circle.
baby blues.
It's like Coyote Ugly. All right, we've gone through the toll plaza. Now we're coming back. I'm John Goodman. You're the Piper girl. I think there was other people in the car. All right. 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like Justin did, where you can toss us an obscene amount of money to come beyond the show because you love us and support us and we appreciate you, or where you can toss us just $1, watch us record it live, a few more bucks, get it early. Of course, if you have no bucks to toss our way, though, you can head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, get the show topic by topic, day by day, until it goes up as one big video in MP3 the following Friday. What is going on with this TV? Why is it constantly blinking that it's muted? It threw me for a second.
I don't know.
I got the giggles today, Joey. I got the giggles.
Oh my gosh. It was because
Are we standing on the thing?
It was because we got wings.
Whoa! Whoa!
I'm gonna solve it. It's all good, guys. It's all.
If there's a problem, Tim will solve it. Check out The Hook while Kevin Coelho rests in peace.
My God.
Ice, baby.
Nick, what's your topic?
You threw me off with the.
I want to talk about Harvey Weinstein today, which is I know it's going to be more of an intense topic, but we haven't done a really intense one on the show, and I think
one
this
hasn't
is,
struck us, I think.
That's true. I think this is interesting, and I want to hear everyone's perspective on this. Not that I assume we'll all be divisive at all in any way, shape, or form, but it's been crazy news with him lately. All the stuff that's come out about him, and
Sure.
It's heartbreaking.
So
to tell you the truth,
I know Harvey Weinstein, and I don't know him. Right. I know of him, I should say,
right,
through Kevin Smith.
Right.
He's
Miramax.
a linchpin to getting Kevin Smith's career off the ground.
Yeah, so Harvey Weinstein's one of those guys that I look back and he's had a hand in making some of my favorite films and actually making the careers of a lot of my favorite directors over the years, right? We were talking over lunch and I was like, there are probably a handful of people that I look to and like that really form my childhood of movie-going experiences, Steven Spielberg being one of them. But like when I look at the 90s, that's defined by the era of Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez and all
that indie scene.
And Harvey Weinstein and Miramax were very, very integral into giving those guys their start, right? And so I look back and I see these movies like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and these things that that were distributed by them, and I think, wow, what a like, I love these films, right? And so then last week, as all this news started to come out about Harvey Weinstein and how he's being accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment and all of these things.
And that's where it starts, sexual harassment.
It
and then,
started with sexual harassment, and now, if I'm not mistaken, it has evolved into actually full-on sexual assault. There are people that have come out and accused him of anything ranging from just inappropriate comments to forcibly forcing himself on them in hotel rooms.
Important for later listeners, we're recording this, on Tuesday the 10th?
Right.
So if anything else evolves, changes from here, what we know is, of course, these allegations started last week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then a whole bunch more allegations started coming today on the 10th. I saw, via the New York Times, they had an audio clip of him basically admitting it and talking to this one woman about it or whatever.
Yeah,
he's been fired from the Weinstein company. He's put out a thing saying this is not true. However, he's going to counseling.
He has put out a few statements that I've seen, and I should look them up. I don't want to get them wrong, but his lawyer has said that he's an old dinosaur and that this is just the way that he's used to living, and that he's trying to change and trying to be better.
Really? That's what the lawyer said?
That's what the lawyer said. Ooh. So there've been. By the way, it's notable.
You need a better lawyer.
It's very weird because his lawyer supposedly has defended a lot of women in cases like this, and so a lot of people are kind of scratching their head as to why she would take him on as a client. Because prior to this, she's made a track record of defending women who have been, who have accused men of sexual assault. And so a lot of people are scratching their head on that one. But most notably, as of I think yesterday or today or earlier this morning, Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie are talking about situations they've been in that are oddly similar to everyone else's. And
it's Patricia Arquette. It's a bunch of actresses.
Did Meryl Streep come out with something today too? Did I see that?
I don't think she accused him, but I think she came out
condemned
basically saying this is horrible and this kind of shit has to stop.
Yeah.
Asia Argento has a story that's horrible. I mean, they're all too similar to kind of ignore. Obviously, like you don't want to make accusations with things that haven't been proven yet. But this is an overwhelming amount of people who are coming out and talking about him. So, innocent until proven guilty is what it is. But I think it's fair to say that he's done some pretty intolerable shit in the past. And it's fucked up and it's terrible for so many reasons. Not the least of which is that there are countless women who probably haven't come forward who have had to deal with this shit. And no one should ever be put into that position where their career or their safety or their livelihood is in jeopardy because of someone else that's in a position of power to hold that over them.
And that was the main thing,
terrible.
right? Where
that
he
is
was
deplorable.
in these stories. His accusations, he threatens, right, that they won't work in the town again.
He's clearly a person who has had a tremendous amount of power for a number of years and can literally, or could, as at least up until last week, make or break anyone's career. I mean, he's responsible for winning people Academy Awards. He's responsible for making, again, some of my favorite movies. And so, first and foremost, I just think it's just fucking deplorable that people would use any sort of level of authority or power over another human being like that. Secondly, and on just a personal note, it's heartbreaking because it's never good to see someone that you looked up to and hear something like this about them, right? Now, we had this sort of moment where I think our culture shifted with Bill Cosby, where everyone said he has been accused of doing things like this and settled lawsuits out of court for decades. And finally, an overwhelming number of women came out and said, "This guy is fucking horrible. We need to do something about this." We should also note that we're recording this right now. He has not been. I think he just got one of the trials. I think he got off on, but I think that he's going back to trial again, if I'm not mistaken. So Bill Cosby's still in the thick of that. And that was heartbreaking for so many different people. And now having Harvey Weinstein go through the same thing, it's my hope. It's as much as it sucks as a fan. My hope is that this is the beginning of something, right? The end of that old shitty era, and hopefully the beginning of let's push forward and not feel like people should it should be deplorable for anyone who is sweeping this under the rug with him, And I feel like there's a culture in every business where if someone can, if this guy has the power to make your career, you get put in a tough spot, maybe you sweep it under the rug, maybe you help him, hide this shit, and hopefully this is an example of people aren't going to stand for this anymore, and as a culture we're going to band together and be better.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's not even the beginning. I think we're in the thicket of it. Like, it's happening already where over the last year, you can look at it and one by one, people getting taken down for varying degrees of this type of stuff, whether it's Nick Robinson or Andy Signore. whatever
Screen
it is,
Junkies,
the
yeah.
Screen
Yeah.
Junkies situation, or Harry Knowles from Ain't It Cool News, or just it's all of these. And every week there's some new situation coming out where people are coming forward, and it's just like it's changing from it being not okay to do the stuff to it being not okay and you can't get away with it because you will be exposed, and that's good. Let's fucking get that out there and let's stand together as a people, being like, we're not going to put up with this shit, so that people understand how to behave. Like something that I think is a little disturbing is how often we'll be on the morning show when these situations come up and the chat starts blowing up with, oh, are they going to talk about the Screen Junkies situation? Are they going to talk about Nick Robinson? Are they going to talk about it? And it's like, it feels like it's just trying to feed into this drama. Like they're trying to get some scoop. They're trying to get us to say something where it's like, where do you stand on this? What do you mean, where do I stand on
Yeah.
this? Sexual harassment is fucking wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, there's not this side or that
It's
side.
not really a gray area.
And it's not a thing of like, because then people take it to this level of it's not true. Like until it's proven guilty, it's not true. It's like, we can't just put the impetus on victims to make them feel uncomfortable to come forward with things. We need to just, if that's out there, take them for what it's worth and go forward from there. Do not shut them down instantly and do not mob against them, because that's where things get really bad. And it's like to see people like look at us as tastemakers and influencers to try to get us to like say anything that's not, this is fucking wrong. Like, period. Whether or not the people did it or are in trouble for it or whatever, the accusations are bad.
Yeah.
Those are things that we do not stand by, and we will
course.
never stand by.
Of course.
Well, it's heartbreaking for me, right, in terms of this situation, is the fact that, you would have talked to me about this, and I'm obviously a 34-year-old white male, not many problems outside of my shitty dog. But it would be that I would have told you before all of this, right, that you're talking about how like things are changing and da-da-da. I would have liked to have believed things had changed. I would have liked to have believed that this isn't where it is. And I know, like, you'll watch, and this is just my own, privileged upbringing or whatever. You watch, like, a Law & Order SVU, and they're trying to get, like, someone who's been raped to go on the record or do the test and blah, blah, blah. I understand that, like, okay, like, in that scenario of, like, you have no resources, you're a minority, you think the police don't care about you. There's something like that happening, right? But to imagine that like Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie and all these people that are like mega movie stars are there and they thought they couldn't do anything, and that there's all these women that literally someone had to break this dam and then they all come flooding out, like Bill Cosby, like this, like every one of these stories you hear.
Well, it's because no one's going to come forward. It takes such bravery, courage, and understanding of what that's about to do to their lives, what it's going to do to them from all the detractors that are like, oh, like they're just going to overwhelm their Twitters or social media or whatever the fuck it is, with saying that they're wrong, saying that they're lying, saying that they're making it up or whatever. And that is so damning, and it's unfair to everybody involved. And I feel like I know there's situations here where people tell me things that I don't do anything. So then when this shit happens, now I'm like, well, shit, should I have done something? Yeah. And that's horrible. But it's like, it hits a point where I go through it in my head. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And I feel like it definitely, it isn't until recently that I'm seeing people actually get in trouble for this shit, because I remember being places where people definitely made complaints to different HR groups and nothing happened. Yeah. It just swept under the rug and absolutely gone. And so to see the Screen Junkie situation, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, man. Let's fucking go and see how far we can get this, because there's a problem with the system. It's a systematic issue when it comes to HR companies defending the people that work there for whatever reason it is.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's so disheartening. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to like put it, like, obviously we always put our own lens on the situation and talk about it that way, and that's all you can do. And that's all you can do to personalize it. But it's the fact that to sit here and imagine these women thinking that they couldn't say something or saying something to HR and it not happening and not talking amongst each other how to come out and how to do this and how to make one big move, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or the person who has been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed or whatever, and worrying about what that's going to be, right? And I know it's taking something we talk about in a very trivial fashion and making it a very serious issue, but it is the fact that if you have been sexually assaulted, if you have been sexually harassed, do speak up, because the people who are going to go to your Twitter and be assholes are what we always talk about. They're the vocal minority. And I think that when those people stand up and act like they speak for everybody, the perception is that they speak for everybody. And I realize, as somebody who deals with people who want to be fucking mean on the internet, the negativity speaks louder than the positivity. But I would say overwhelmingly the silent majority is like, oh shit, this is fucked up. We believe you. We want to support you. We just don't know how, and all this different stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking disgusting on so many levels. I mean, you start thinking about it, and these are the women who have come out. But what about the women who maybe turned him down, and then whose careers ended prematurely?
Yeah, exactly. Who just totally got
who
torpedoed?
Actually, just got torpedoed. It's fucking horrible. It's just so. I don't know. I mean, Tim, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Like, I have friends that, have been involved one way or the other in some of the stuff that's happened in the last couple of weeks. And to hear them come out and actually, like, share their stories, I'm like, Jesus. I mean, I look at myself and I'm like, I don't know that I'd have the balls to do that. I don't know that I have the courage to do that. Like, I don't know that I'd be able to take that risk, knowing that we live in a world where accusers become, just get completely torn down. And because it can ruin your life to accuse someone of that, even if that person's guilty of it.
I mean,
and it's fucking horrible.
I've told this, everything I just said, I still say despite what I'm about to say, which is a story I've told on the show before. But one of my closest friends growing up got accused of rape in high school, and it ruined his life. He's no longer one of my closest friends because he is a different person. He got sent to juvenile hall. Things got really bad. One thing led to another. He's where he's at now. Years later, after fighting, she comes forward and was just like, I made it all up. I was lonely and no one liked me, and I felt the only way I can control something is if, like, I saw in movies that if I were to say this, then something's going to happen. And it's just like, that shook me personally. I have an actual real life experience with that. Having said that, you need to come forward. You know what I mean? It's like that. You need to give people the benefit of the doubt of if they're going to come forward. You got to do the due diligence of getting in there and getting to the bottom of it and figuring out where the truth lies. But you can't go into assuming that they're making it up.
Shit like that sucks so hard because for every one of those stories, which I know that they do exist, like, there are so many people that haven't come forward.
And that's what's important.
Yeah. And it sucks. But it's like, I feel like so often that's the story that's the rebuttal for people coming forward of like,
100%.
Oh, well, this, and I'm not to like, because I know that that's totally different shitty situation of like, it totally does ruin someone's life. But like, it sucks because I feel like if someone is coming out against or with sexual assault or harassment charges, like, they always have an uphill battle of like, I have to fight to tell you why my story is the true one.
The burden of proof's on you.
Yeah, it's crazy. And all of this stuff is it's been like such a shitty couple weeks and like even months going back to like all the Polygon stuff and everything. But it's interesting to hear you guys say that like you thought that it was like we had moved past this.
And not that, oh man, we've stamped out rape and sexual harassment.
Totally. But even going like, there are people that I have encountered in the last couple years that still, it might not be as like clear as like the Harvey Weinstein thing of like, I can make or break your career with this, but it's the implied power struggle of like the statements of like, we should hook up, we should have sex, we should do something, and that I can get you a job or I have connections aren't necessarily happening in the same conversation, but it's the underlying like motivation behind it. And it's just like, I don't think, you said that you think that this is the beginning of the end, and I don't necessarily think it is, because there's people that still, regardless of all of this stuff coming out, still make those same decisions and make those same statements. But I think it puts them on notice of like, you have a much higher risk now of
you're only going to get away with this for like 40 to 50 years before
I made that statement, and I think that it's the beginning of it beginning to be destigmatized, right? It beginning to be swept under the rug, and it beginning for younger generations now. My hope is that as young boys turn into men, they see these examples of these monsters that are getting called out of the darkness and put on fucking blast, and they go, oh, okay, that's an example of what not to do, right?
Yeah.
And then my hope is that they'd look at other people and find other good examples of how people should treat each other.
Yeah.
And that's how it works, right? Like, on some level, I know it's a complete and total cop out, but when Harvey Weinstein says I'm a product of my time, that there is some merit to that. right? Where he did come up in a system where that rampant misogyny and that horrible abuse was just kind of accepted, right? Cosby was a perfect example of, like, obviously people rallied around him to protect him because he was a moneymaker for them. But the fact of the matter is that this is where it stops. Dude, you did something seriously wrong. You've been doing something seriously wrong for years. And because you got away with it doesn't make it right. Right?
Yeah,
because you
not at
got
all.
away with it doesn't mean it's culturally acceptable. And that's what I meant by that statement of saying, like, this is like, from this point forward, anyone that's on the internet or in a position of power should know by now it's not acceptable to do this shit. Right. And kudos to all the women that came out against these guys to be like, yo, this is just I don't think this kind of behavior is what should be representative of people that are thought leaders in this industry.
Yeah, but then you look at all of the stuff that came out about Trump before, and he still got elected.
That is very true. And that's why I would have liked to have been that. I would like to believe that we were past this point, right? I thought that Donald Trump was a perfect example of, clearly there is a lot more ground to be made up. There's a lot more work to be done on this front.
Yeah.
He is a guy that I would have looked at and been like, he's a guy that I would never have thought had anywhere close to good moral fiber. And then he became president and proved me completely right. He has proven time and time again that he has zero ethics whatsoever.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, even outside of like political views or whatever, it's like this seems to be like for me, a character issue of like, I don't care if he's a Democrat, I don't care if he's a Republican, a libertarian,
Sure.
but like anybody that conducts himself in that way, I don't think is fit to be president. But
I agree with you. That's why I didn't vote for
but I
him.
don't think that's
Well, I think the situation here is unlike. Sorry,
Kevin's not here. We got to do his job for him.
Okay,
so I disagree where I think it will be phasing out, because I think we're dealing with an old guard, mid guard, new guard situation where the old guard they're used to it. It's the Mad Men situation where you see it's a lot of misogyny and stuff like that. And the ones who are in power are realizing they have the power to lord it over. And not all of them do. You have the standouts who are, and that's what we're talking about now. But it's the mid guard who would be like the Ain't It Cool and things like that, where they kind of find that power and they're seeing it. We're seeing it abused, but and it's the new guard who, like yourselves, who are a new business. You're finding new power, and you're learning from their examples of, oh, we can't even joke about things like this. And that's where I think the change will be, because the mid guard, it's a gray area, and
It's the changing of the guard. Right?
yeah,
It's that middle
exactly.
area you're trying
And
to
they're
figure
the
out.
people in the middle who they have the decision to make, and some of them are making the wrong choice. But people like yourselves and other companies, they can find it where, hey, we're starting to come into this power, and we're seeing these mistakes that people are making, and they're also learning about, we have the politically correct culture now, and that's kind of informing people as well.
Sure, but that's what's so sad to see people rebel against that, right? And strike back so hard. Oh, it is PC, it is SJW, it is this feminist agenda, where it's like, I remember, and this is just me, I guess, but being raised in the 90s, right? And going to college and thinking like, I thought this is going to sound bad, but stick with me, that the hatred of feminism, I'm going to rebel against feminism, that's a bunch of chicks trying to change who I am bullshit idea, I thought had totally faded away. Because I grew up thinking, well, who the fuck isn't a feminist? Who doesn't want their daughters and wives and any aunts to be treated equally? Why is this an issue? And then you get here and it is this rallying cry and it is this hot button issue. And I'm with you in the way that I hope you're right, that there is this new wave and there are these new thoughts. But for me, what's still scary for me, and I couldn't put it into words then, but there's been examples now that I'll get to. But I remember distinctly in high school, where I went to a Catholic school, uniforms all the time, all this stuff. And we were out of uniform, but we were still dressed up. I forget if it was from a mass or what the fuck it was. I remember coming to my locker, and this girl who was a year under me was at her locker crying with her friends. And I was like, what's going on? And we weren't like close, but like, what's going on? And she's like, I'm being sent home from school. And I was like, why? And she's like, they say my pants are too tight. It's distracting for the boys. And I was like, I guess sophomore, junior, whatever. I was like, well, that's fucking stupid. What a dumb thing to say. But I tossed my books and went, her pants were really tight, but whatever. I went about my day and forgot all about it, kind of thing. And then recently now, as an adult, following these things happening, same idea, not in my school, obviously, but reading these articles of girls being sent home for wearing whatever. And the people I follow on Twitter, or people who are just retweeting people on Twitter, this one tweet that got retweeted, there's like, it's not, we don't need to raise the girls to be defensive. We need to raise the boys to realize that's not okay to be openly lusting after these people and doing this thing and giving into their sexuality or hormones, whatever you want to, or just being inappropriate. And it was that thing of like, holy fuck, that is the issue here. The issue is that when we're raising people, we're very much like, here's your rape whistle, and here's this thing, don't walk in groups, which are all good tips, of course. But at what point are we sitting all the guys down and being like, don't fucking rape people, don't attack people? What the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you do this?
Yep. Did anybody see the post that Alana posted yesterday on Twitter?
No.
Oh,
It's the boyfriend thing?
Yeah, of like, and it's that thing of like,
Give a recap.
oh, so Alana had posted a video, Alana Pierce from IGN. It was like a boyfriend tag with her boyfriend Blaine from Rooster Teeth. And in the comments was this guy who was talking about like, I've watched your, like, why are all the girls that I like unavailable? And I've watched all your boyfriends and I thought that we'd be able, or I'd watch all your videos and I thought that we'd be able to meet someday and like.
Have a connection.
Yeah, have a connection or something like that. And everyone is like, man, that is a huge jump of like, just because you see girls that you are attracted to, whatever, doesn't give you any entitlement that they owe you anything back. And I think that's a huge thing here of like, we're just people. like we have our own thoughts and processes. Like, just because you were like, oh, I like her, doesn't mean that anyone's automatically gonna respond. And that doesn't mean that if we don't respond to you, that you can take any power or make any moves to that women, or I mean anyone that you're interested isn't reciprocating.
You're not calling dibs on someone.
Exactly. It's
Which
like,
happens in movies and all this other stuff. And it's like we were talking about recently about like watching like 90s movies.
Yeah.
And you watch them now, you're like, holy shit, none of this fucking shit would fly.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's
Even
for the
Bill and Ted you were talking about.
Yeah, I was watching Bill and
today.
Ted's Bogus Journey, and they just throw the word fag around like constantly, and I was like, huh, that like it caught me off guard to the point where they were like, now granted, it was in Bogus Journey, it was the bad guys that said it, but still, I'm like, that's weird that it just gets thrown around. Actually, I think they may have said it in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as well. I think
Towards
there's a
each
moment
other.
where they hug and then they go fag, you know?
Yeah,
and they say,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
totally.
And I just thought, like, whoa, what?
This is supposed to be
How
a
out
movie
of
where
place
these
is
characters
that?
are just be excellent
Yeah,
to
the
each
characters
other.
are so nice and so positive to everyone, and they don't mistreat one single person, but they throw that word around. I'm like, oh no.
I mean, we talk about this so
no.
often when it comes to words and when it comes to how things have changed. But like, I think back when I see all this shit, and in the same way that I said things that I would never say now, I look back, I did things that I would never say now.
Sure.
I have said things to women I would never say now.
100%.
And it's like when I think that people get, rightfully so in some ways, so alarmed from the word sexual harassment, where they're like, well, I didn't rape her. And it's like, that is jumping. Like, making people feel uncomfortable in any environment, whether it's social, work, whatever. You need to be responsible for what you're doing, and you need to think about how other people are
Right.
Interpreting it and taking it in and what it's doing to them. And that gets scary. And with a lot of it, there isn't straight rules. There reaches a point where there is a right and
Sure,
wrong.
there's a threshold, but up until that point, you're like, it is a social grace thing, right? And it is a tact thing, and
And
it is a reading the situation, understanding what your relationship is with this person that you're talking to.
100%.
And I think more often than not, and you know, I would be lying if I said when I was younger, I didn't understand where that was either, because you have to figure it out. You have to understand it, and sometimes it takes a long time, and it takes leadership and an example of people around you that can be like, hey man, what you just did right there, not cool. You made that person uncomfortable. And until you realize that, you're like, oh, holy shit, right? But that's why I think it's important that we talk about these things
100%.
because you have to have, like, you have to know where that line is. And unfortunately, what you're talking about is that line moves sometimes.
That line moves, and
It does.
that line is different in every situation, and you need to be aware of that. As corny as it is, with great power comes great responsibility, and that doesn't just mean people in position of power and jobs or whatever. That's in every social dynamic you possibly
A
have.
perfect example is every once in a while, you know, you hear about someone like seeing a girl at the gym and being like wanting to talk to a girl at the gym. My advice to I think we had a topic about this, I think, on Love and Sex Stuff once, something similar to this.
Communicate.
Well, no, that's true.
Oh, sorry. This is the one time that
was
was
about some girl that worked at a Starbucks.
Oh, maybe that was what it was, right? But like, I'm like, that instance, you have to understand the dynamic of the situation you're putting this person into, right? Gyms are always the thing for me where I'm like, gyms are always where a person is very vulnerable. You're going there because you're trying to work on yourself, on your body, on your mental state, all of that stuff, right? If you think it's acceptable to walk up to a girl just because she's good looking at a gym and talk to her, you got to think about that.
I mean,
That is a
guess what?
situation where you got to pump the
There
brakes
are
and
3
really
gyms
think
that
about
Gia
that.
that situation happened to her, and she's like,
because it's
it was
creepy.
awkward. You know, she like kindly turned the guy down, but then he would come back and talk to her again, and she's like, he knows where I'm gonna be. He knows I'm gonna be here. So she had to stop going to 3 different gyms, different dudes. And it's like, it's one of those things where you wouldn't necessarily think about that as sexual harassment, but it's like, there's a social like allowance at a bar to walk up to people. It's a place that you're going where that is like meeting new people, talking to
For the
new
most
people.
part, you're there to hang out
Right,
and
but
have a
this is
social
where the
experience.
line moves, right? Because it's 100% acceptable at a bar to initiate that conversation, but when it becomes obvious that that person does not want to talk to you, she does not owe you anything.
Oh, no.
You do not get to talk to someone just because they're in a bar, and this is where I think a lot of guys, young guys, get a problem because they, this is where they get angry or they get like, and I've seen this a lot over the past couple weeks too, where guys are like, well, we just can't talk to women at all.
We just
And I'm
can't
like,
flirt at all.
no, that is a total fucking opposite end of the spectrum reaction of what you should be having, right? I understand that comes from fear, and that reaction is, well, if I don't know anything, so I'm just gonna push away from the situation completely. A perfect example of that is I read an article talking about how a lot of people are off the record commenting in Silicon Valley about how they're like scared to mentor women now or be in rooms or interview women one-on-one if they're a man, and like I have to have other people in there, and I'm like, I think that is just a totally far out there reaction to this, because there is a middle area where we can all exist and it's acceptable, right?
The thing is, be good and lead by example,
Sure.
and have it so that if something were to happen, people stand up for you, because they can stand up to your character, and it's not one of those things where people dogpile on you because they know that you are a good person. They know that what you're saying they can trust based on you not lying and being a good person. An example for me that comes to mind that in many ways is sexual harassment is the bra situation from years
sure.
ago,
Yeah.
where we were at a meet and greet, and I signed or autographed
we all signed bras.
a bra, and I posted a picture of it, and those girls had a great time. We had a great time. Everything was cool. Everyone's friendly. No one was upset about it. We post the picture, and one of the girls was like, "Hey, when you post this, can you censor my face? Just because I just don't want my face in there." Oh man, oh yeah, totally cool. Not even thinking about the repercussions of it. I'm like, it's totally fine. So we did that, put it up, and it goes from being totally cool and everyone being fine until it made people uncomfortable, like certain people, and then it turned into this thing where I got dogpiled on by the SJWs and this and that, whatever. But instead of having the reaction of "fuck you guys," like
Plant
whatever,
my feet, I'm gonna fight.
I had the reaction of like, "Oh shit, I did not mean offense. You're absolutely right. This is offensive because this, and that." I wasn't blocking out their face to
sexualize them,
to
make them
sexualize them,
objects.
objectify
Yeah,
them,
absolutely.
whatever. It's like they were totally cool about it, but them being cool about it doesn't mean that all the other people are going to be cool about it. And it's just like, to me, I was like, I apologize. And I stand by the fact that I apologize, and it is my right to do that. Took it down, and it's like, I'm not trying to offend people.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like the amount of my friends that came to my defense being like, oh, this isn't bad.
Yeah, sure.
Like, whatever. Because like a lot of these people were like getting at me for good reason. If I was a douchebag, if I was a fuckboy,
Yeah.
I should be getting got at.
I mean,
But I'm not.
and that was the thing, right? Is that it was a moment in time for us that we were having fun with our fans. These are all best friends, and we put that out there. But then the context was lost, and it looks something that totally isn't us and not what we represent is kind of funny. And I feel like that, honestly, I think that and the reaction to it, and the fact that you talk about it, and the fact that we talk about everything here, because back to your point earlier, right, of like leading by example. When we bring up the stories, like I said, no, I beat all the time. Like I'd call things I didn't like gay in college, and and I drive that home of let's not talk that way to each other. It's not me reprimanding you, the best friend out there who's 13 watching this and does call things gay. It's me showing you that hopefully the world isn't as small as it was when I was growing up, and I didn't have those experiences. No one was there to share that with me. I'm sharing with you now to try to get you ahead of the curve to the world you're about to get into. And it's similar to the fact that when these stories happen, when it's a Nick Robinson story starts, when it's an Andy thing starts, when it's Harvey Weinstein now, and it literally is just like sexual harassment is all it is. And my main concern, which I hope speaks to the tenor of my character, is and I'm saying just it's the headline of these people are in trouble for sexual harassment. These people are complaining. Is have I ever done something like that? Have I ever done something that I thought was funny at the time? This, that, and the other. I made an offhand comment. I did this thing, and did I fucking put something in hell? Like I mean, before Jen, I'm talking years and years back. I fucking DM'd girls to talk to them, right? But it was reciprocated, and it wasn't, hey, how are you? Fine, here's my dick. You know what I mean, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And it is that thing that I get worried of, like, fuck, have I done something?
I guarantee you did. I guarantee you did.
Oh, wait, did or did not?
Did. I guarantee that you said things that if you were to look at now out of context without the feeling that you had at that moment,
Sure.
texting, DMing, whatever it is.
I would say with the DM and the texting, the girls were on the same playing field. I never came out of left field with somebody.
But I don't know. I don't know that there's a guy on the planet that could be like, I've at some point approached a girl in a bar and not and the conversation has gone off, and you're like, oh shit.
Before this point gets away from me, what I'm saying is, then you get to the underlying things of what they said, what they did, and I'm like, holy shit! Never in a million years would I go at someone like, and I mean go at somebody in a bad way, even though it is a bad way. Never would I approach someone, a stranger, someone I find attractive this way. It's the same reason whenever Jen and I tell our story of, getting together, it took her beating me over the head finally on the third attempt to be like, no, I want to talk to you. I want to flirt with you, because I would never engage someone even when it's questionable, right? I have to they have to be waving me in like airport fucking planes getting landed.
Well, and I think that part of that is because you're a good person, but the other part of that is because you do have to be a little overly cautious as a guy.
Yeah.
You do. You have to really understand the intent of the person that's across from you, or in this case, on the other side of that conversation, right? And if that person, in the case of a Nick Robinson or the guy from Screen Junkies, if that person is looking up to you as a leader or someone who can help them, or a mentor style character, well, then you have a different level of responsibility than you do if you're just a person who finds someone else attractive, right? Sure. There comes with it a lot. The stakes at that point are you do have power over that other person, and then that relationship is forever changed in that regard. Yeah, that makes sense.
My thing is, this is something I definitely want to put out there, is that in the situations we're talking about, we're saying this because these are people that the internet talks about. These are people that are influencers or whatever, so they're being. Doesn't need to be, I have a job so I can get you a job, because in Andy's situation that very clearly was the case. That is what was said. Right. Cool. In other situations that we've been talking about, that wasn't the case. And yeah, they have a position of power. Yeah, they have Twitter followers or whatever. There was no actual promise of anything. However, there is still a position of power there. Having more money than someone else, having more education than someone else, being a dude is a position of power. Like, there's all of these just factors that go into it that it's like this is a problem on such a grand scale that it isn't just the people that are public figures. It goes all the way down. I think that's where it gets scary. Being a teacher is a public figure, or is a position of power.
Being
a TA is a position of power.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, there's so many things that you just need to like look at all the factors of it and how it affects people and just the world we live in, where this is a constant thing everyone deals with every day of their life.
Yeah, and it sucks now too, because especially in the digital era, in the digital age, where you can initiate contact so much easier without having any real indication of what's going on in that person's in the other person's life, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase this, without really seeing anything of what's happening with that person's body language or anything like that, right? If you meet someone in a store, for instance, or if you meet them at a bar and you say hi and they go hi, you know 100%, okay, this person doesn't want to be talked to, at least not by me, right? But this little window we put up between us and people, I think, is just this weird separation that for some reason emboldens certain people to act that way.
It's doing even more to desensitize you to the fact that it's another human on the screen, right?
Yeah.
Like, at what point, like in a bar, would you ever be like, "Hey," and a woman's like, "Hey," and you're like, "Cool, here's my dick." Like, that's not like that.
You want to see my dick?
Like,
but
no,
the
I
number
don't want to
of
see your dick, sir.
unsolicited dick pics that girls get is ridiculous.
I joke about this. I actually joke about this in my act, because I have an act now. I don't know if you know this or not, Greg, but I have a bit that I write about Tinder, and one of the parts is like, do people actually ever want dick pics? Or are they just out there whenever they're just there, right? Like,
and I feel like if you do,
I'm sure there's a couple people
the
on the planet that
conversation
want to
is
see that,
definitely going in that direction. Like,
yeah,
it's still shocking. Like, every time I get one of like, I have never even messaged you back. Like, we have not. It's been one-way conversations every time.
What do those guys think? This is what I wonder.
That's what I would love to know.
You
I've
as a
given
woman,
you zero signs.
You've given them zero signs that you want any contact with them, and they think, you know what? I'm going to show you my dick, and that's going to change your mind.
It's got to be. Exactly. That's the thing. It's a turn on to them at the moment. I don't think anybody thinks that that's going to evolve. And I'm talking about the blind dick pic, not
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're in a relationship and you're sexting or something. I don't think the random, your DMs are open, here's a fucking dick. Somebody thinks that they're going to bite on it, no pun intended. But it's the fact, I think it is just the fact of like, yeah, I'm powerful and yeah, I just showed her my dick. It's the modern day flasher, right?
100%.
The fucking people walking around in giant trench coats being gross.
But yeah, like, I mean, I think guys have it super rough of like, I feel like do any of you guys watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah, I used to, yeah.
So, and How
when it was
I
on.
Met Your Mother, they talked about the Dobler-Dahmer theory, which is like, you doing a grand gesture to any person could either be like Lloyd Dobler from Say Anything of like this big romantic thing, or it could be
I remember this episode,
Dahmer,
yeah.
like who
Jeffrey Dahmer.
There we go. I was like, where it could
I
be
love
like
that
Yeah.
all this How I Met Your Mother, John Cusack roles. Wait, who was that
know.
murderer?
Mass
Killed a bunch of people, ate
murderer,
them.
a bunch of people, yeah.
But yeah, it's like it's hard because it's not something like reading a room and reading people's interactions isn't something that you can teach necessarily. It's not like there's not a checklist of like, they'll do this, they won't do this.
Yeah,
Like, and that
there's
changes from person
yeah.
to person. So it's like,
There's no matrix of like, okay, we're here. Okay, what's this? Okay, bad.
Yeah.
You can't. That's not the way it works. And it's unfortunate because especially in your formative years, as a young guy growing up, when you hit puberty from like 13 to like 18, those are the years that you have to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Then you get into college, and a lot of alcohol starts getting into it, and that throws another curveball where you're like, okay, well, fuck. Now I have to negotiate this. And even to this day, even at the age of 37, I'll meet people and be like, I still have to like understand what this situation is. I still have to realize what all the social grace is here and where is the tact, where is the line, what is acceptable to do. Everyone's drunk at a Comic-Con party and people are making jokes, and I'm like, but I'm still at work. Like it's very
totally.
weird. It's very weird.
I mean, for me, it's and I'm not saying this is not woe is me. It's hard being a man as much as it is, man, this is a fucking shitty situation for women. Is the fact that like when I'm walking Porty on the street or whatever at night, and like, we live in a businessy residential area, right? So there's people in bars, all sorts of stuff. But when it's just me out on the street or whatever, and there's a woman in front of me who's left a bar, who's walking, I'll do that thing where I slow down and stop and let them get away because I don't want them to think that I'm bearing down on them. Now, granted, if they turn around and see the wiener dog, they know they're cool. But like, other than that, it's
Might be a red herring
Yeah.
now. You never know.
well, when I was
dog
Why is that dog got no pants?
when I was not this last time that I was dog sitting for you guys, but another time back, I had Portillo outside and it was super late, and it was just like please just make this fast so I can go back inside. But some guy tried to start to talk to me, and I was like, and he could tell that I was immediately uncomfortable. He's like, oh, I live in this building, like I know.
Oh, he was the dude smoking outside.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know.
He was like, I know the parents of
Right.
the dog.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, okay, but it is like an immediate like, oh man, what is this gonna happen?
What's the end goal
Yeah,
here?
exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's like,
that.
oh, Portillo, please hurry.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's like kind of a shitty thing because it's like I don't want to always have to have those reactions, but like you have enough interactions with people of like where you can see where this is going, and it's like you just try and stop it as early as
Does
possible.
it seem, I mean, we're talking about like where we think, does it seem like it's getting better in your, not experience, but I mean, even like life of what you've heard from females in your family?
kind of?
Sorry to
Not-
make you come on and speak for all
No,
females too,
I know,
by the way.
sorry. Yeah, I definitely don't speak for all women. But it was interesting. I guess I didn't even think about this until like we were on the show, but I was in an Uber the other night, and it was an Uber pool, which I love because I love watching the interactions between people. I think it's so funny.
I hate it. I hate
But my
all.
driver stopped and waved someone to walk through the crosswalk, and she like smiled and waved and walked, and he just went on this whole tirade of like, yeah, and she what a beautiful smile and all this stuff, and I was like, oh no, and I was like, this is why girls don't smile, because they don't want that kind of
No.
reaction, and they don't want to
I had an
start
Uber driver.
that.
I had an Uber driver that was singing in the car, and it was clearly like peacocking because it was me and two other girls that were in their 20s
Yeah.
and this older Uber driver who thought it was acceptable to be these two girls' best friend all of a sudden, and I was so fucking uncomfortable. Like, I got to a point where I had to roll down a window because I was like, I'm getting really claustrophobic in here, and this is just a fucking bad sitting. And they were being good sports about it, but you could tell as every song came on, he was like, right. They were like, dude, it's fucking 9 in the morning, man. I'm just trying to go to work. Like, this is inappropriate. But don't even get me started on the sheer volume of inappropriateness that is Uber drivers.
Yeah.
I just
Put
have
in
had.
your act.
Oh, it's in the act.
Okay, good,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, it's in the act. There's the LA Uber drivers are definitely going in the act. The ones whose cars didn't work. Remember that one? We had one Uber driver thought it was acceptable to pick us up with a car that had
no
one
brakes.
cylinder that was missing. One didn't have brakes, and the other one it would just like at certain RPMs, it would just kind of shut off for a little bit and then kind of kick back in. I was like, this is so fucking dangerous.
But to go back to it, I think the internet has opened up like a whole new world of like you have to watch your back of stuff because
there's a level of
so
accountability now, which I think there wasn't prior, right? And that's why it's so important that and it sucks because these first few wave of women that come out against these guys are gonna get roasted.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt their careers and it's gonna hurt them.
It was Evan Rachel Wood who was like, women have nothing to gain from coming out
Nothing to
and
gain,
making
everything to lose.
accusations and
Yep.
putting this stuff out there.
And it's very true. And it's very true. Now, my hope is that as all of these start to come out, that goes away, right? And it just becomes regular old justice.
I mean, what it needs to
just
be, with all
justice.
due respect, is that, again, just like when we talk about the vocal minority and people being mean in video games, it means that the silent majority needs to get off the bench and say, yeah, this is unacceptable, and not compliment people, but hey, thanks for telling your story, or I know this is painful, I know, like, blah, blah. Just show that it's not all just fucking pitchforks and torches out there.
Yeah, I mean, my wife kind of ran into a situation like that at one of her jobs where somebody made an inappropriate comment and not knowing that she was married or anything like that. And she was like, I don't think my husband would like that comment.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, oh, didn't know you were married, and backed off. No apology, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's unacceptable because it was an inappropriate comment in the first place.
Sure.
regardless
And-
of
yeah,
marital
regardless
status.
of her status.
Yeah.
And there was no apology. And I was just like, okay, well, you could tell the guy I wasn't pleased and, he needs to apologize and stuff. And I think eventually he did. But there's also the situation where, like with Tim's post, where he did that and he made an apology and he took it down and everybody kind of jumped on the bandwagon supporting him, saying, hey, he's not the kind of guy. And I think that's also the issue we face, where we'll have people who they get accused rightfully and people just go to support them. They're like, oh, I know this guy, he wouldn't do that. And so that's where we run into the issue where women are afraid to come forward because they're afraid people will jump on the bandwagon. Just
Of
because
course, yeah.
once is all it takes. One time and that person is in the wrong completely. Rape is, a person could rape once, that they can't say I'm sorry and take it back.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of the situation we're in, where it has to be to that extreme. It doesn't have to be a harassment issue.
And that's my fear back to it right ever. Like, man, have I sexually harassed somebody? Have I made somebody uncomfortable? Have I? And I'd like to think I haven't, but like to your point, Tim, I probably have.
I'm sure.
And the problem is that we live in a society where that person did not feel comfortable enough to tell me I stepped the line, and that fucking devastates me, because obviously if I knew, I'd be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, that's never my intent.
No, exactly. But I guess that's what I'm saying, is that it's like if someone were to come forward with something you said to them years ago or whatever, and were to post that publicly, there's not going to be other people like, oh man, I've been silent and now I'm coming forward and saying this, because those people don't exist.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think
Hopefully.
that's what I'm saying. Well, yeah. Definitely.
Again, I'm just saying that, like, I don't. I think of myself as not having enemies. I'm sure there is a legion of superheroes against Greg Miller.
My point is, like, if
that's the opposite of anything. Hold on, I'm not the villain.
I'm not just talking about people coming forward saying
Legion of Doom.
There's a legion of really good people out there that want to see you be put down.
They're not going to come for me, Lex Luthor, and Bizarro. We're the good guys.
I'm just saying that it's not that like people come to my defense of, oh, Tim wouldn't do this. Tim, like, it's not anybody. It's people that know me, that can represent me. It's the Greg Millers and the Nick Scarpinos that are like, hey, we got this,
and
going beyond that.
With context.
And
Yeah.
there's a difference between like you made a bonehead mistake. You're not a fucking serial sexual assaulter.
But the thing with that too is that when I did it, I didn't look at it as a mistake. And you
did it with best intentions, of course.
But what's an important thing that I want to put out there is, when I posted that, I had talked to Gia the night before, feminist #1, and I'm like, is this fine? Is this acceptable? Is it cool? And we talked about it, and like I got the okay. I got the, and it wasn't even that I was fighting for it. She's like, this is fine. Like, just the context of everything, it's fine. Mm-hmm. And then when I posted it, it wasn't fine. It's not that me posting it was wrong. It's not that what I did was wrong. It's when I posted it, I stand by me posting it. Like, that's something that I did, and I stand by that action. It wasn't until the reaction where I'm like, oh, I didn't do it for that reaction. Mm-hmm. If it's offending people, I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't post it for the same reason why the guy started Girls Gone Wild, right? There was no like, hey, I'm going to capitalize off of these two young, immature girls that don't realize what this could do to them, right? You were like, no, these people were having a great time, and we just wanted to show that. We wanted to show some of the spirit of where we were at in this group, and unfortunately, by putting the smileys on their face, it looked like it just was a bad look. That's all.
Yeah, smiley or no smiley, though, I still think it would have got the same reaction eventually if the right or wrong, depending on how you want to look at it, person saw it. And it's you need to live your life feeling things out, And then when things happening, realizing and accepting that if you fucked up or not. Like another situation we were in, I referred to some girl's pictures as trashy, and it turned into this whole fucking fight. I stood by it where I'm like, you know what I mean by this is I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to like demean anybody.
I'm not slut shaming her.
I'm not slut shaming at all. And I am all about sexuality. I'm gonna fight for open sexuality till the day I die. Male, female, everything. And it's like, so to me, I'm like, no, I don't mean that bad. But I'm like, man, me saying that word hits people the wrong way.
Because that was the thing, right?
Not say that word.
I was there when that happened. That woman didn't know you. And she was coming in as a friend of one of our friends. And so to have not this, I mean, that's the whole thing about us when people, if I would hope, if something got posted or taken out of context, or this person was mad at us and came at us, and I've been sitting on this for a decade and wanted to do it, I would hope the hundreds of hours of us that everyone's listened to, right, would give people a thing of like, I'm sure that's not how it was meant. That Greg would have wanted to talk to you about it, blah, blah, blah. But coming in, carte blanche, having your own hook to that word, I think that's the big thing you're hitting on, right? Is the fact that we post, we check, we talk to our significant others, we talk to anybody about like, hey, is this, I mean, the number of times I've come to Joey, not with sexual content, but like stuff like, hey, would this offend the community? Hey, you have a different thing. Like, is this going to sit the way I expect it to? And it's a yes or no or a maybe. It's the idea of you only have your lens, your experience to go out and put something out. And when you get contradictory information to that, you have to decide. And I think for most of the stuff we do, which I was about to call stupid, because it is, it's just trivial, us talking about video games or whatever, right? Putting a goofy post out. You have to be able to sit there and accept critique and
100%.
Other people's lenses. And like, I'm talking about the girls and with her pants being too tight and just that little bit of a twist of like, well, maybe it's not the girl's problem. It's the guy. Like that was a major mindset change for me in this, not argument, because I'm not arguing it, but in the fact of like, oh, fuck, I haven't considered that perspective. And that's the whole thing of like, that's why I don't want to ever be that. I put this out and I'm planting my feet, and I'm doing this whole thing. And like, it's the whole thing of, we talk on this show about like, oh man, not saying gay, not saying fag, not saying retarded, because these things. We did a rant about it, or it came up in a topic not too long ago, and a guy hit me up and he's like, I find it interesting you'll stop saying those words to not offend people, but goddamn is a different situation. And I was like, this is a fascinating tweet.
Very fascinating
that
point.
I don't agree with you, but I'd like to be a topic because I don't think they're the same thing. But I understand where you're coming from, and that's not my point. It's like that is that thing of like, I don't agree with on that one. I'm not gonna stop saying goddamn right now. But I do want to talk about it at some point. And I do want to have more of that conversation and open dialogue about it. But it's not
next topic. I'm
we should stop here in a second. I mean, I think we solved sexual harassment.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, and I love it. I think this is an important note. I'm sorry to go a little long on this, but what you're talking about is personal growth. Right.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is learning from your mistakes, and there's nothing like for any guys out there, any young guys specifically that are listening to this, you're going to go through life making little mistakes every once in a while. It's how you react to those and how you choose to react to those rather that define your character. If you put someone in an uncomfortable place and that person says, "Hey, this is not cool," and you go, you know what? I apologize. Like I'm gonna think about this situation and maybe not and never do this again. That's personal growth. If you double down and go, "Fuck you," like. Whatever, I'm a man. Like that's where you start to get into territory that makes you an asshole. So you got to really be careful and really understand that there is going to be some level of like you have to negotiate.
And there are gonna be times when you say no. I don't want to make it sound like I'm offended by you saying that. You're not every.
All right.
Not every. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you're gonna be like, it's okay, and I understand.
Like, goddamn. I always say goddamn. I say goddamn all the time. I say Jesus. I say Jesus, and then because to me, I don't want to go off.
Don't spoil the next. Don't spoil the topic we're gonna do on the next show.
But yeah, that is a defensible position for me, right?
Yeah.
And I will talk to people about that, and I will say I have very harsh opinions on religion, and I'll stand by those. And those are backed by years and years of Catholic school, right? And if people want to have the conversation with me, I absolutely will.
Sure.
That's part of being an individual and having the right as a human being to say what you want to say in this country.
Well, so that's the thing. The freedom of speech thing I think is important. Where it's like to me, it's you're allowed to say whatever the hell you want. The reason I no longer use the word slut, the reason I no longer use the word trashy, is because I have the freedom to say things. People also have the freedom to understand what I mean, and I want them to know what I'm saying, not the words. And it's like I can say those words and what I actually mean by them in a way that gets my point across much better.
Sure.
Well, you're
without the
describing
connotation.
Yeah. And without just this immediate shutdown or bucketing of what I'm saying and what type of person I am based on that.
What you're describing there is what we used to talk about in college all the time, right? And this is a stretch, but stick with me, is really. Why the fuck would you ever say it's really cool It's really awesome. It's really there's a better word that exactly. But I mean that to take those two words and make them into one that explain what you're trying to say better. And that's what you're saying, right? Like saying slutty or what this is trashy or whatever is for you, it's a shortcut. It's worthless. Like, why not express your opinion more than what you're trying to do in like 140 characters? Not that you tweet, hey, nice trashy photo, but you know what I mean in terms of a conversation of like, what's your real point? Why are we using the shorthand to get there and not actually having a conversation and not understanding the point? All right, Joey, did we miss anything?
I'm trying to think if there's anything.
I want to thank you for coming on. I mean, for the audience, for clarity, 100%. Of course, it's Justin's episode. We were going to have him on, and then it was me and Nick both wanted to do this topic today, and then it was the conversation between us three of just like, all right, well, in the past when we've done a Ferguson topic, a racism topic, something like that, outside of what three white guys think who all dress and look very similar. What do they think? It's like, it's usually, well, why didn't you have a black person on? Why didn't you have a woman on? And it's always the thing I've said before publicly of just like, the shows are booked ahead of time. I feel like, is it even more insulting to bring somebody in and plug them in for that topic? But we talked about it, and again, would the community want that? Would women want it? And you're like, yeah. And you're like, yeah. I don't really want it.
This is not like the number one topic I ever want to talk about. But like, I think it's important that you guys get different perspectives.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, definitely.
I feel like women have to deal with this a lot more than guys probably think about.
I mean, this is back to the whole thing with that like YouTube video of that woman walking through New York that blew up, went viral a few years ago now.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, Jesus Christ, really? That's what it's like. And you know what I mean? Even now with like Jen, I'm taken aback all the time because I'll do that thing where I'm walking and I fall behind her. And then I'm walking to catch up, but I see guys go, and then they do like the out of there, and then they like do a 360 to look at her ass or whatever. Or like there was one time when we bought all the booze for the Landis episode, we checked out together, but with the divider between our stuff, so it looked like I wasn't with her. And the way the guy was like, like the clerk was like talking to her and doing all this stuff, and then I just walked over and swiped my card. He's like, oh hey, and then totally different a conversation of how I'm gonna interact with what's happening. Like,
the last thing you had talked about how you would wish that women had told you, like if they had said something that had offended them.
And in general, not just me.
But like in people.
Yeah.
But I think the reason that we don't do that is because so often you think that you're talking to a nice guy and they throw out some comment that you don't appreciate, and you go back at them and they turn instantly, and it's like I didn't know you're a bitch. I didn't mean it like that.
Right.
And you're like, blah, blah, blah,
and
all
here's
this
the deal.
stuff.
That is because the guy is very insecure.
Yeah.
And that is a defense mechanism, right? That anger, by the way, is anger is a secondary emotion, as 100%. People will tell you, right? There is no such thing as like, I'm angry. You're angry because something ignites that anger. And in this instance, it's because for whatever reason, your ego's bruised. You're hurt. You're hurt, and it's saddened. And
you read the situation
wrong, and you put yourself out there, and this person did not resonate with that. And you have two ways of dealing with it. One is going, okay, I'll learn from this, and this will build into my confidence later, and it's okay that this person doesn't want me, and it doesn't mean that I'm a piece of shit. Or you have the opposite reaction, which most young guys do, which is, well, I'm just going to get angry and puff out my chest and peacock, and because I am a man, and it's like, that doesn't make you more of a man. It doesn't. No. Making you more of a man is having the confidence to learn from your mistakes and move on. And that's what a man is. Yeah. In my opinion.
But so many times you get that reaction to where it's like, I'd rather remove myself from the situation, cut off conversation. I
completely understand that.
And which isn't necessarily good because it doesn't teach the other person like, hey, that's not okay. But it's like, it's a self-protection thing of like, I don't want to put myself in that position.
And this is why I always tell guys, do not initiate these kinds of things in those settings like work or in the gym, because you are putting this person
locker room talk
in a very hard position, right?
Yeah.
Like I've worked alongside women for the last since I've started working, right? This is their livelihood, right? So if you are the kind of person that's going to hit on this girl and not accept that or put her in that position, you have to understand the corner you're putting her in, right? She can't go to HR because then she's the person that ratted on you, right? Yeah. And then how are all your friends going to treat her? So,
and it's even the ripple effect from that of like not the direct interactions from like, if it was me and you from you, it's like everybody else at the office knows and how everybody else treats you then and stuff like that.
It's just shit.
It affects the whole ecosystem.
To put it in terms that maybe, I'm going to try to put it in terms that maybe a guy can understand. You work at, let's say, Starbucks, right? And every once in a while, every once in a while, some giant dude comes in and just fucks with you, right? You don't know when it's going to happen. And every once in a while, he just keeps doing it. And you can't stop him from doing this because you're at work and he knows where you're at, right? And think about how fucking horrible that would be for you to deal with that every fucking so often. You don't know when it's going to happen, right? And that's not an accurate portrayal of it, but I just don't think you have to realize like there's just so much more that's built into this than just that casual conversation you just had, right?
I hate the idea of having to think about all the women I know being on the defensive all the time and worry about that. We're good here, right?
No, you guys are totally fine.
Okay, sure.
And
I know Andy though. Those Gundams.
Those damn
It's very
Gundams.
sexual for him.
Yeah.
So many
No,
tentacles.
the biggest problem I have is Nick and fucking Kevin stealing my hot Cheetos.
You can't. We have a rule in this office that I just instituted right now. You can't leave an unopened bag of hot Cheetos on your desk for longer than a week without offering just some to big old Nick. I walked in the other day. I was like, Andy, Joey, you guys are pretty cool, but would you know would make me way more cool? We had a bag of flaming hot Cheetos, and they were like, well, I don't have that. And then Andy fed me Cheerios this morning, and it made me feel good about myself.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
They were.
And then you made a really offensive motion when you said nut.
But there's no sexual harassment here. Just to Andy.
Just good old-fashioned harassment.
Are you sticking around? Are you going to work? What do you got to do Friday 13th stuff?
Yeah, I gotta.
Okay. Joey, thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you.
No problem. Thank you.
What do you want?
You just what? Just it's
I just need
fine.
to move this down.
Nah, do whatever you want. Cool Greg's got it. Look, he's on the move. He's doing stuff.
Making moves.
Yeah, it's fun. Justin, what's your topic?
So,
And thanks for hanging in there on an episode where we're like, well, let's talk about something serious. You're like, I'm the guest.
I told you guys in advance. It's very topical. I wanted to do it. So my topic is the concessions you make to please other people.
You're clearly married.
Exactly. And that's it. That's where I consider a positive concession is that my wife wants me, whenever we go to an event together, she wants me to dress a certain way. Like I would prefer to dress like this all the time, or to even wear, a logoed T-shirt or something like that.
maybe wear a Kind of Funny T-shirt you bought at kindoffunny.com/store, huh?
Yeah, well,
First time I met you, you wore an Achievement Hunter shirt.
Yeah, well,
So
and
this time,
at that
nothing.
same time,
Nothing.
I bought a Kind of Funny
Thanks
shirt.
for wearing it today.
It's stretched out. I'm sorry. I've lost some weight. So.
Hey, all right, good job. Is this one of the concessions?
Yeah, pretty much. She saw that. She's like, it's a bit stretched out. Don't worry.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. So for her, I make those, and I don't always want to make them, but I do because I realize she's trying. Exactly. She's trying to help me better myself.
100%.
And I take that as feedback. Whereas a negative thing is like at work, I have a larger vocabulary than some of the people I work with, and when a rule was instituted where I can't use any words above 3 syllables.
Who the fuck?
That's weird.
Well,
That's a weird Arizona thing.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Well, no, it's it's not Arizona. It's one's a Canadian and one is from Mexico. So
Okay.
one doesn't.
Oh, wait, is this the whiskey?
No. Different people.
Okay.
No. This is my day job.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Whiskey's a side job, which we're hoping eventually it'll turn into a day job.
You're gonna send us a bottle, right? Because I want to
Exactly,
drink it.
yeah.
Okay, make sure.
Yeah.
You want to
It's
pick the
just not
brand?
ready
What's
yet.
the
Okay,
it's gonna be?
it's Scar Whiskey. You guys can go to scarwhiskey.com. We have a Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that. It's not ready yet, but we're hoping sometime in early January or something like that. If you guys go down to Mexico where we're making it, you can hopefully buy some moonshine or some white whiskey that we're hoping to have.
Hell
and
yeah.
then we're going to start trying to import that. So.
Okay.
I
You make a
think-
lot of concessions.
I think about this a lot because I think that people will look at the word concession or the word compromise as a negative, right? And sometimes it is. Sometimes compromising your values for someone else is not a good situation. In the case of being married, if you've chosen the right person, I think it can lead to tremendous personal growth. I see this a lot of the times. I have a lot of friends who are still single, and when you're single in your 20s, it's different than when you're single in your late 30s. I see people who are on dating apps. I see people who are unwilling to compromise, unwilling to allow anyone else to change them in any way, shape, or form. And from my experience, I've looked at these people and I'm like, I don't think you're as happy as you could be if you were just willing to give a little bit of that ground up to get a lot more in return. And that to me is the basis of every healthy relationship. I don't care if it's a business relationship or a personal relationship. Take what we do here, right? We work as a team. And, left to our own devices, we might not operate the same way, but we operate in such a way where we make small concessions so that we can support each other so that we can get a greater, grander thing out of it. Like I would not, if I were doing this on my own, I wouldn't have this big studio. I wouldn't have a Kevin. I wouldn't have a Cool Greg, because I just don't know that I would have done what it would have taken, or made the concessions, or made those choices to get these people in. But here we're constantly reevaluating. Okay, is that the right thing to do? No. That might be a fun thing to do right now. But if I shift my expectation of what that might be over to here, then maybe we'll get a studio out of it, right? And it's worked so far. With marriage, I mean, there's a lot of concessions that I've made in marriage that have ended up being really, really strong, like powerful for me. One of which is my wife loves to travel, and I hate traveling. But when I go with her, I'm always struck by how much fucking fun it is, and how much personal growth I get out of it, and how much perspective I gain from just getting out of the United States and seeing other people's culture and just existing in their world for just this slight little window of time, right? I think that her, not I want to say forcing, but her encouraging me to get out and do new things is such a fucking amazing experience that I wouldn't do on my own. I just know I wouldn't.
Do you think the concessions you've made for her, the traveling, getting out and doing new things, has in a way enabled you to be crazy enough to like, I'm going to go do comedy. I'm going to go do
I think
Muay
it's
Thai.
100%
Jiu-jitsu.
connected.
Damn.
Jiu-jitsu.
Close.
I mean, jiu-jitsu is a perfect example, right? Let's take that example. I've talked about this before, but jiu-jitsu is, and I look at jiu-jitsu not necessarily as an exercise or a martial art. I look at more of it as a mental obstacle, right? A mental training, basically. I have a tremendous amount of anxiety before I go into jiu-jitsu every single time I go in, and then once I get there and once I get through a class, I'm very proud of myself. And like I was talking to you guys, it is a massive stress release. The whole reason I started going back into that was because I was dealing with a lot of personal issues, dealing with a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of anger issues. And my wife was like, you have got to figure out something you can do to combat this, because you are turning into a gigantic asshole to deal with. She pushed me to do that, but she also gave me the support and showed me the example of what it meant to try new things and get outside of your comfort zone. And yes, 100%, like traveling to Thailand, traveling to to Morocco, all these things that I was scared to do. Once you do them, they do give you that little confidence to then go tackle the bigger issues in your life, of like wanting to go back to something that terrifies you, or wanting to try something you've always wanted to do but never thought you could do. To me, again, is the foundation of a great relationship. It might not be a one-to-one like that. It might just be that I've made little concessions here and there, but in return, I get this great human being that goes, you can fucking do it, man. Like, I believe in you. And like, I don't care how confident you are. It's really lovely and really nice having someone who's in your fucking corner.
100%.
And who's just there for you, and who can just be like, dude, I'm here for you. Like, we're here for each other. We're a fucking team, right? And I think, on the flip side of that coin, where it starts to get unfortunate is when you're not a team and you're making concessions just to keep the other person happy, and then you're going down that dark road where no matter what you do, that person's not going to be happy, because that person's not a happy person and doesn't have what it takes to be happy until they figure it out.
But I think that's where this gets complicated, because it's never just two people. Like, and no matter what the situation is, there's so many outside factors of the concessions you make for your wife affect us in whatever way, right? And it keeps going from there. And sometimes I feel like you need to make concessions with somebody based on their concessions with someone else, right? And when I look at like Kind of Funny, for example, it's all about us learning how to be a team. And everything you just said, I agree with you. Absolutely. When I think of Gia, the one thing for me is sleep. I know I joke about that all the time, but it's true. That's something that I very much enjoy and very much value. And I spent my entire life kind of scheduling my days out surrounding sleep as being something that I'm like, this is when I'm going to do this. And the rest of the day, I'm focused on building whatever it is that I'm trying to build, building me, right? Mm-hmm. And now that she's in my life, it's the fucking best. I have someone pushing me. I have all this stuff, but I just had to change everything. And once you do those changes, you're like, oh, totally great. We're in a better place now, and we can figure out. It's a compromise more than a concession. But then when I look at us as a team, it's like over the years, seeing the things it's learning how to deal with each other to optimize us getting what we want and need out of each other to help the whole thing to
help grow the whole thing. And
help the whole thing grow.
Yeah, it's a matter of priorities, right? A small example. It was the other week. We were all getting together to go to a team lunch. We were going to go Buffalo Wild Wings. You were gone. It was like, 2 days ago, Friday, whatever.
Every fucking time I'm not here. They go
well, we went today.
Yeah, I know, because I begged you.
I know.
That was a concession you made for me.
It's true. It was a good concession. We get in the car, and then I realized, oh, fuck, I'm supposed to take my wife out of town on Saturday, which means that I should probably get the car cleaned and get it gassed up and like run some errands before that, right? And so I had to leave a team lunch with you guys that I was looking forward to go and do that, right? Y'all gave me shit for it, and that's totally fine.
And that's it.
Maybe something amazing would have happened at that lunch. Maybe we would have been struck with a cool new thing we wanted to do for a Let's Play or something like that. I don't know, but that's where you have to start, weighing those priorities.
I mean, it's funny, like taking that to a step further. I feel like I made the concession with you where I'm like, if I put something on the calendar, that's not enough. I need to tell Nick we're doing this, And I feel like that's the concession of, hey, don't make a big deal out of this and whatever. If things need to get done, I learned that's how I need to interact with you.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the opposite with that with you sometimes, where you need to remind me things constantly. And then we get to where we need to go because we know each other. And that's based off of concessions over time of just being like, if this was my way, this would happen, then this would happen, then this would happen. But it's like, everyone's not a clone of me.
And that's the whole thing too, though. I mean, even to go grander with concessions, that's the whole reason Kind of Funny works, is the fact that it is, I want to do this show, I want to do this thing. All right, you're like, it's not the right time, that's not the thing. And it's like, okay, I trust you. I know the vision we all have for this company. I know that we're all working towards the same goal. So if this doesn't work for some reason, fine. If we can go do something the other way, fine.
Yeah. It's all about figuring it out. Concessions, it's just, that's life, right? It is communications. It's like, I'm trying to think of besides like relationships and Kind of Funny, like, what do you have any other examples?
Yeah, well, I mean, and it goes, you guys aren't recording this, right? So I can...
Oh, we're not recording any of this.
You can talk about your wife?
Yeah,
You're fine. You're
She'll
fine.
never
Don't
see
worry about
this.
it. She'll never
Okay,
watch this.
great.
Yeah.
Cool.
So-
Just block everything out now until we're done talking about his wife.
Yeah.
It's a joke. Don't do it. Cool Greg's so good at his job, I don't know he can actually do it. He just kills the lights.
Whiskey Fest was a thing here in San Francisco on Friday, and I was just gonna go dressed like this. I'm like, because my personal opinion is, fuck everybody else. If they don't like the way I'm dressed, that's their problem. But she convinced me, go in a nice polo, put on some jeans and stuff, and I think dressed like that, people actually took me more serious. So I actually was able to talk to people and find out information about their stuff. Whereas if I went like this, they might have thought I was a slob. And I saw people who were like in full up suits, like dressed to the nines as you would. And people didn't take them serious either. It was like, oh, okay, well, these people are here to make an event.
Yeah.
Whereas dressed the way I was, people are like, okay, well, he's casual. He's asking us questions. And I think a lot more people talked to me, gave me good information than would have in either end of that spectrum.
If you're listening at home, Justin's dressed like and looks a bit like Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's what we're up to.
That is true.
I appreciate
Where's
that.
my beer?
Cool, get some beers for Stone Cold over here.
We only have bottles, though, so don't smash anything in your head.
Oh, the glass! It's in my mouth.
Well, that's funny because the dressing thing, it reminds me of my brother who recently we've had to do a couple weddings, a couple different more fancy events, and he's not allowed to wear his hat.
The hat.
And it like that drives him nuts. And it's funny because it's not there's a lot of people that are like, I just want to dress this way and fuck people and whatever. My brother's different where it's like he's uncomfortable if he doesn't have his hat. Like there's a level of confidence. So it is a concession where he values Kevin and Paula specifically enough to well, because he would have told Kevin to fuck off. But with Paula, it's like Paula didn't want him to wear the hat at the wedding. So he's like, all right, let me know as soon as you're comfortable and I'm gonna put it back on. And it's like that's what we're talking about.
Cool Greg made the biggest concession for me the other day, and it didn't even end up panning out. But it was the fact that I was in New York City. I was drinking my coffee there, having a good time. We had about an hour until my WWE meeting, and my phone went off. And I was like, that's weird. It's a weird notification that vibrated. And I looked at it, and it was the security system here at the office saying the security system was going off. And I did the math in my head. I'm like, it's 8 o'clock in the morning there. And as you now know, I'm the only one who gets there. I'm usually the first. Me or Kevin's the first person here, and I'm usually 9:30, and if Kevin's somewhere around there, plus or minus, and I'm like, fuck, that's not us at all. And I started to do a group text, and Kevin texted me from Milan or wherever the hell he was, across it, and he's like, hey, the security system going off. I'm like, I know, I'm on it. And then his things were all out of order, and he gave me a number, and it was this whole thing. And by the time Cool Greg was the only one answering the text thread, and he wasn't there, and I had to be like, all right, well, you go. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to get an Uber. I'm like, thanks, man. And then sure enough, I called Comcast to be like, hey, we don't know what's going on. We're checking on it. She's like, all right, the cops are going to be there when you get there. I was like, all right. So I texted Cool Greg. I'm like, dude, this is not what you want to hear. But the police are going to be there when you get there. And he's like, I can't do that. I'm not, you don't know how. And I'm like, I do know. We've talked about it. Just go in there. You're a small business owner. You're supposed to be there. They're helping you. Yes, sir. No, you know what I mean? And he's like, all right. Like, he's going to do it. And then he got here. The cops weren't even here, thank goodness. But Cool Greg was ready to do it. Like, that's what this all is. We do it. We all do what each other needs.
For us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He was going to go, and it was like, he better not snitch on us. If you know what I'm talking about. Like,
somehow Cool Greg gets arrested for breaking into kind of funny. We're like, no, he has keys.
No, but that's the thing. That's where you have to weigh, right? It's like you have to weigh. I think one of the important things about life is surrounding yourself with people that you trust that can make you better, and then knowing when to listen to them or when to really do the thing that you want to do, right? And you're talking about just the sheer mechanics of relationship dynamics. And with my wife, for instance, she's done that to me too, where she's like, I think you should wear this thing. And I'm like, well, I really want to wear this thing. And then I'm like, but sometimes it's hard to see yourself. It's actually most of the time it's really hard to see yourself, right? We all exist in this little bubble, this little shell. All we can do is kind of see the tip of our nose. It's all you really have perspective on, both figuratively and literally.
True story. Right? You always see your nose. Your mind just chooses to ignore it.
Whoa.
Greg's always been dead. But that's important, right? And that's 100%. Why I'm so glad that I picked the right person, because she can help me make those decisions and better myself.
That's the thing with like Jen, where it was early on when we realized how we were meant to be and all this different stuff, but of turning over to control to her when she would clearly knew that I needed it, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. Where it was like, it's such a stupid thing, but she's like, all right, let's eat. And I'm like, I'm not hungry. And she's like, I'm starving, which means you're hungry. And like, we're about to get cranky and fight, because we had done it where we'd flown too close to the sun before. You know what I mean? And so now it is just like, eat this. And I'm like, I'm not. All right. Like, I know you're in charge. I probably do need to do that. Or like
sometimes, and that's the thing. My wife does not like being told what to do. She is one of those human beings that just does not like anyone else saying you have to do this. And so that's a concession I've also made, where I'm like, oh, you don't want to be talked to like that. So I have to figure out ways to encourage her to eat and do things like that when I know that maybe her blood sugar's low, or we've gone 6 hours and she hasn't had breakfast yet, things like that. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, where like, sometimes she fights it, but every time I'm able to kind of help her through that, she goes, "Oh, thank you for
it's
that.
Just
like,
weird
thank
to
you
concede,
for reminding me that I need to do this."
To concede control to someone like that, and that does, I mean, concede makes in a way sounds like you're losing, you're giving up, or you know what I mean. But it's like, in reality, it's just like they're watching something play out, and they know the better move than you do in the shit when you're not paying attention and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the other thing I always think of when people talk about concession or compromise is you think about contract negotiation, right? And they say the old adage is like, the best deal is one that both sides walk away from thinking they in my brain, it's thinking they lost something, but yeah, you're right, thinking they won, right? Both sides should have to make some concessions to get something good out of it, right? And that's how good business deals get made, and it's the same for personal dynamics.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Tim,
yes,
what's your topic?
I want to talk about spoiler culture, and I feel like we've done this before, but with a specific
2017 edition.
Specific framework to this. Yeah. As of the time of recording this on October 10th, 2017. There's been two very different situations in terms of spoiler, or in terms of trailers and spoilers and all that. Star Wars: The Last Jedi theatrical trailer comes out.
Maz Kanata's in it.
And Maz Kanata is not in it.
Spoilers. Who are you?
But the director, Rian Johnson, leading into this, like for the last month or whatever, had in interviews or whatever said, hey, you should avoid this trailer if you don't want to be spoiled. And it was always in a way that was kind of forced out of him, or like that.
See what you did there.
Yeah, exactly. It was for the headline or whatever. And as it kept going, it would progress, and he'd be like, yeah, I mean, if you want to go into the movie,
if you don't want to know anything,
completely blank, don't watch the trailers. And it's like, you can say that about any movie ever, about any experience ever.
Sure.
And then, of course, the day that the trailer drops, he's like, it's out now, everyone go watch it. Forget everything else I said. And it's like, yeah, did he have to do that because it's Disney? I'm 100%, sure, probably.
100%.
But it's like, all right, now, for the first time ever that I've seen, there's an actual rebellion of people.
That's what we do. We rebel.
Maybe they should form an
This
alliance.
scene isn't in the movie.
It's not. It was
It's
weird.
me, Jane Earl.
Good Lord. Of people that are like, I'm not going to watch this trailer.
Nailed it.
Like, I'm not watching this trailer. We're too close to this movie. And
Well, it's because you had
just, like,
all
don't
these
don't even
dweebs
fucking
like
put it
Anthony
out there.
Carboni being, it spoils. He didn't say that.
I feel like there's
Someone like dweeb did.
I feel like there's a threshold for trailers that you like move. There's only a certain select few movies that you don't need to watch trailers for, that everyone's gonna go see, right?
But isn't
Like Star Wars, you don't need to necessarily watch the trailer, but for a movie like for most other movies, you gotta put some spoilers in the trailers.
So you do, and so that's the other side of this conversation here. Is so Batman v Superman obviously spoils the entire movie. That's how trailers these days, modern trailers, are made. But with the Star Wars trailer, which for the sake of this conversation, I don't really want to go into the trailer substance because there are people that don't want to be spoiled. And at the end of the day, my one message is, don't fuck with people. It's rule number 3 of the genie thing.
Don't fuck with people.
Be good, and if people don't want to be spoiled, don't spoil them.
Spoil it.
But so the Blade Runner situation is the other thing, where one of the main arguments for why people think Blade Runner isn't doing well in the box office is the trailers don't explain shit. All the trailers say is who's in the movie, and it's going to be very stylish and cool.
It's going to look cool as fuck.
And that's it. And that doesn't put butts in seats. So I think that there's just an interesting thing here of when it comes to trailers, there's a trailer culture where, everyone's going to watch Star Wars. Like, they don't need to put any... There doesn't need to be any trailer. People
could
can
be
watch
a
that
quick
movie.
lightsaber. Everyone's like, "Yo,
cool." It could have been a title.
Tickets are sold out. Done.
Exactly.
100%.
But it's like I think that there is something to, especially with the Star Wars trailers, there's an art to the trailers where the trailers themselves are events.
Get you hyped.
And
They get you so
they get
fucking
so
hyped.
hyped. But it's also there's the conversation around that. There's a whole cultural phenomenon based on this trailer, this moment, what happened, right? And I want where do you guys come down on this in terms of like where people like trailers and spoilers and
Trailers suck. Period. End of it. One of my favorite things, again, high five for the death of theaters, and we're going to go all demand on digital day and data stuff.
Flip-flop on that.
Is the fact of now where it's like I go through, what I love doing is going through the Amazon thing I've talked about. I watch a lot of bad trailers.
Yeah.
But if a movie sounds interesting, read it to Jen. Do you want to watch this? And we jump in and you don't know. I love so much jumping into a movie that's recommended for a friend. Somebody's told it. What was the one I just talked about with lunch? Gerald's
Long Shot?
Gerald's
Game.
Gerald's Game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it was like, Jen's like, this movie's fucking, it's this new Stephen King thing. It's this horror movie. She's chained to a bed and like, that's all I knew. I was like, all right, fuck it. And I started and I was like, oh, it's that girl from Entourage. I know she's been in a million things, but I think of her from Entourage.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the guy who was
It's Captain Pike.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You're helping me out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
Greenwood.
oh fuck, I like these people, and I would have been more inclined if I saw the box. I would have been like even more excited. But I knew the idea was cool, and this is cool. Why not jump in? And like same thing with the movie you didn't want to go see, Raw. When I went and saw Raw one day, where I was like,
Right.
I was sitting, Jen was still, and I were still long distance. It was some Friday or whatever, and I was just like, fuck, I want to go to Alamo Draft House and get a beer and some popcorn and watch a movie. And it was Raw was playing, and the thing was there, and it's like, oh, it's this horror movie about, or it's this thriller or whatever about kind of like a zombie thing, but it's not really. And that's not what it said, obviously, but it's similar to that. And I was like, all right, that sounds cool. And I went there, and the movie started, and I was like, oh, this is not in English. This is
subtitles.
This is subtitle. I was like, this is rad. And like, I left that movie like, all right, cool, that was awesome. And even with, I guess not with it, because this is one of the problems, right? Is then the movie we all went and saw after Emily was away too, and we didn't like.
Fuck.
It Comes at Night.
Yeah, it comes at night.
It Comes at Night, where we had already seen a trailer for it, and that gave me this big preconception of what that movie was going to be. And then that movie ended, and we were all like, "That movie fucking sucked."
It's funny. I didn't see a trailer for that movie, and I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
To an extent, because trailers I think are important on selling people on movies. Period. We understand all that shit, but. Everything you're talking about, you're not talking about the superhero movies. You're not talking about the Star Wars and these blockbusters. You're talking about these things that are the word of mouth. To me, that's the Gone Girl. I watched Gone Girl without ever seeing a trailer for it. Blade Runner, I feel like, acts and looks like a blockbuster, but isn't. And it is one of those word of mouth movies where people need to talk about how good it is to get other people that are like, oh, you know what, I should check this out. And I feel like with what you're talking about with that one movie we did see, It Comes at Night, I ended up not really liking that movie. A lot of people did, and it's the reason I watched it. And next time there's another movie like that where everyone's like, oh, like there's a lot of buzz around it, like positive buzz. We're going to go watch it because that's the culture that we're in, right? But it's like when it comes to trailers for Justice League and for all that stuff, like, they need to happen. But how would we want them to happen? Because I think the Star Wars trailer is a great example of them being aware of trying not to spoil.
First off, I think trailers these days there's too many of them, and they're too fucking long. You don't need them to be that long, and you don't need 13 trailers for a movie that comes out in a month. Like, there's TV spots now, there's 30-second spots, there's 15-second spots, there's all these things. And you're talking like, For a video game, it's okay because there's like a 60-hour experience that no matter what, it might be different for you than me because we're playing it differently, right? Depending on the game. For a movie, you only have 2 hours really to pull from. So if you're showing 10 to 15 minutes of it, that's a pretty sizable spread out. You're showing the entire movie at this point, right? I mean, maybe I'm looking through rose-colored glasses on this, but I remember when I was growing up that they would narrate the trailers, and the narration would just kind of give you like this summer takes on a building, and it'd be like, cool.
Whoa, I want to see that.
You're like, okay, cool, I get it. There's a dude stuck in a building, and there's terrorists. Got it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think, and I don't know that this is even feasible in Hollywood's current structure, but and it wasn't even intended at the time, but the original Spider-Man movie. If you guys remember the
Tobey
first
Maguire?
trailer, yes,
Okay.
the first trailer for that,
It's a Twin Towers trailer.
Yeah,
The teaser.
it was
The
where
teaser,
it was a bank robbery stopped, and then he webbed up the helicopter
Right.
between the Twin Towers, and they ended up pulling that because 9/11 happened. Well, I think that 9/11 aside and all that was the perfect type of trailer where it's something that sets the tone for the movie, shows you what it's going to be.
Blade Runner
but
just
there's
did
nothing
this.
in there.
Blade Runner just did it with the shorts. Instead of having theatrical trailer 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Thank you, John.
Yeah,
they went and they made
thank
stuff. Did you see the shorts going into Blade Runner?
I did. I haven't seen Blade Runner yet, but I saw
that's
those.
right.
But the problem with that is those are all like 6 minutes apiece. You can't really make it a trailer. So if they cut
these
it
days
down,
trailers are 3 minutes.
Yeah, true.
Here's my thing is I think let's take Star Wars, right? Now granted, and I don't remember it well, but I remember Force Awakens, right? And I mean, maybe it's always weird when we talk about a movie after we talk about DC all the time, right? And like Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, we did so many rewind or whatever we called them for GameSpot. What were they?
Things you missed.
Things you missed, where I would like literally tell you exactly how all this lines up. I fucking nailed. I knocked Suicide Squad out of the
You
park.
did not at all.
Suicide Squad.
Okay,
Squad.
sorry. Yes.
Batman v Superman.
You're right.
Batman v Superman. I got the main plot points right, but I gave Zack Snyder way too much credit. Where I'm like, and this is gonna be the Joker, and this is gonna be that thing. Well, and the Jason Todd. Yeah. Okay. But overall, I got where we were going with it. I digress. Maybe I'm wrong, and you guys watched Force Awakens and felt like that gave it away. I thought like I watched Force Awakens, had a lot of questions, and didn't know. I went in and I knew big points, right? But they still had me grinning ear from ear when like that ship's garbage. The garbage will do. Like I didn't know that was. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I mean, I think they were I think a little bit more delicate about Force Awakens than they're being now. But Force
Really?
Awakens,
I mean, do you
they're
feel like
more delicate now than Force Awakens?
Really?
I feel like the trailer,
Yeah.
like I saw everybody last night, maybe it was IGN people. It was some dweebs like Anthony Carboni, but not Anthony Carboni, the dweeb, saying like, oh man, don't watch this. It's really spoilery. And I watched it and then it was people arguing amongst themselves. Just like, is it that spoiler? Because it feels like they're just cutting dialogue out of context.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's what a
definitely.
trailer
That
is. And
wasn't
like,
spoilers to
I
me at
watched
all.
it and Jen was like, I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing. And I was like, but what don't you exactly understand? Like, I was like, I don't understand where Maz Kanata is.
So I guess that's
Where
my
Watto
entire
is.
topic.
Where dude with Jar Jar,
Metachlorian.
he's still alive.
The entire topic to me is that conversation because it's like I saw someone on Facebook say, is knowing that Luke trained in Empire Strikes Back a spoiler? Like if that scene of him waving a lightsaber around on Dagobah, is that a spoiler? And it's like everything is a spoiler if there's context to it, and everything or else
everything
literally
in the trailer
anything
is a spoiler.
A poster is
Literally.
a spoiler
Because you're gonna ruin
Spoil
it.
what outfit they're wearing. Like
Yeah, but the trailer is in and of itself. You're sacrificing a little bit of spoiler so that you can get people hyped for your movie. That's what a trailer has. It's always
100%.
been that way, and they've just been putting more and more into it. The question becomes like, how much is too much? And that boils down to an individual level. I purposely stopped watching trailers for Blade Runner after the first one. I was like, I'll watch the shorts because they back up into it. But I think they released one or two more, at least a teaser or another trailer. I didn't watch them because I'm like, I'm good. I want to go into this. I'm already hyped for it. In fact, I probably shouldn't have watched the first one, but I'm glad I did because it got me even more hyped for it. With Force Awakens, they needed to have a trailer, and it needed to be that trailer, the one that came out with the Chewie "We're home" line, because it needed to tell every single person, we're coming, we're back. This is okay. It's in good hands.
I still feel like, I mean, bringing Blade Runner into the Star Wars conversations is the biggest fucking apple in the world versus an orange.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're the same. I feel like the Star Wars trailer for, what is it, Last Jedi, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it's called. It could have been what I always wanted the GTA 5 trailer to be.
Yep.
Where it could have just, I always thought GTA 5's logo should have been the GTA logo fading up, and it was 45 seconds, and then it's like it is audio and stuff exploding and like noise behind. It could have been the same thing here, where it's just like the fucking logo rolls things up, and then it was just like pff, like Kylo Loren's fucking lightsaber starting, and I don't know,
my thing
Chewie
is,
over there.
I just the restraint,
porgies or whatever the fuck they are.
porgies. The restraint that Disney has shown with Episode 8 has been very impressive to me, because we are 2 months away from this movie releasing. We've only gotten one trailer before this, and now this one.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is mind blowing based on how little footage is out there of Last Jedi. And we're going to get a whole bunch of 30-second spots.
I'm sure
that
we will.
People can
But
link
remember
together.
also they were
with Force Awakens, I did the same thing you did with Suicide Squad, which is piecing together the whole thing, and it was so easy with the amount of footage they put out to be like, all this shit's going down, to the extent of Han Solo's going to fucking die, because you can see the jacket. And again, I'm doing the screen by screen breakdown.
Yeah.
With the amount of shit out right now for Last Jedi, you can't do that. People don't know what's happening in Last Jedi.
Yeah, and I kind of think spoiler changes from person to person.
Right.
So, like with this, you may see something in there and you're just like, oh, that's a perfect trailer. But somebody else sees it and they're like, oh, this person's in it, or that person's not in the trailer, so maybe they're not even in the movie. That's a spoiler. Or like Thor Ragnarok.
Hell
is
yeah.
coming out. The trailers make that movie look awesome, but somebody could look at that and go, wait, the Hulk's in that?
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah.
Well, no, but again,
it kind of is,
a
but at
perfect
the same
example.
time, it's been a talked about thing where that was a concept.
Right.
So unless you're completely out of the know about everything, that shouldn't be a spoiler.
And I do wish, to an extent, and I'm not going to just do the whole it sucks that my job's so great and I get to talk about this shit all the time. Even if I was a general consumer working at the newspaper again, I'd wish to be able to go on true blackout, but I feel like, I'm going to run into the fact that Hulk's in Thor or something to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a perfect example is Blade Runner, right? Like how much. I wonder how crazier that movie would have been if they had not told you like Deckard's character was in it, right? Because I mean, you don't.
Big
Like
Harrison
I think
Ford.
they could have sold a movie without doing that. They chose, of course. They're like, we got Harrison Ford. He's Harrison Ford.
They're like, we need
we got to
something.
fucking tell people that
We
he's in
need to
this
hook
movie,
some
right?
people on this.
I always bring it back to a movie called The Island, right? Which was a movie with Ewan
Michael
McGregor
Bay.
and Scarlett Johansson, and it was a fucking awesome concept. But the twist was in the trailer, and it would have been such a
What was the
fucking
twist?
great. The twist was
What a
that
twist.
the trailer starts with a bunch of people stuck on this island, right?
Sure.
And they're told that they're like the last few people like on Earth or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but for whatever reason, they're like, we can't get off this island because we're in this like enclosed habitat, right? Then they discover that they are clones of real people who are grown for organ harvesting.
well, there's the lottery system, and whoever wins the lottery
right.
gets to go to the island.
But they get off the island or whatever, right?
No, they go to the
Oh, they
island.
go to the island,
Yeah,
right.
The island is the reward.
Right, but the island in reality is death
Yeah.
because the lottery,
they're gonna take their
lottery
stuff.
system is you've won the lottery because guess what?
I need
Real
your
Greg
heart.
Miller needs a heart.
He does.
And so you're going to get fucking killed, right?
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
they discover this, but they showed that in the first and like the second teaser because I guess people like weren't getting hyped
Not
about
caring
it.
enough about it.
And I'm like, oh, what a fucking letdown!
Well,
Because
this
that
is-
happens like you get halfway through the movie, and you're like, oh, this is where's this going? Oh, right, I remember.
I
This is a
think
spoiler.
we've talked about this on the show before, so I'll keep it brief. But it's the same thing I didn't realize being me and my friends were so into Terminator. You know what I mean? Growing up, that was such a cool action film. And when Terminator 2 was coming up, we had all the magazines, we had all the toys.
Fucking
we'd
awesome.
drive around, we'd roll around Amboy, Illinois on our fucking bikes playing Terminator. And it was the thing that it wasn't until, 2 years ago, some anniversary of Terminator 2, where I was reading an Empire article about how this is the biggest spoiler fuck up, or not even fuck up, but of all time. And the fact that if you watch Terminator 2 and act like you know nothing,
If you've never seen Terminator before,
you've
then
seen
heard of it, right?
like the movie is shot and edited and filmed in a way that you don't know Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator is a
the
good
good
guy until he saves John Connor and takes all the shots in the back.
With the roses.
And like all the promotional stuff leading up to and the real lead up to the movie was Schwarzenegger's here and he's the good Terminator this time. The cop Terminator's bad. Like they told you all of that going in so that when you get there, it's cool, but you don't understand that. And to take a second is what a big Terminator fans we were. If we just knew another Terminator was coming,
You know what's
and we
fucking
went there,
awesome?
what?
Gia has never seen Terminator. Any of
She's
them.
gonna love it.
She saw Blade Runner, totally fucking sold now. She's
Oh, wow,
never
really?
seen Matrix, never seen Terminator. And so
what a
she's
great
now
world.
after 2049, she's like, I'm in. Once
You got
she
it.
fucking
Show her
got
Terminator
hissed.
1 and 2, yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
I'm like, oh, we're gonna watch Terminator, and she doesn't fucking know. And I'm
That's
trying
fucking
to figure out a way to
brilliant.
film the reaction to
Don't
that.
tell
Because
her.
here's the thing is, and we talked about this in the show too, so I'll keep it brief. But you've already blown the greatest reaction of all time from Gia.
Oh, Christ.
And the
Oh.
fact of when she watched Batman Begins and the Waynes get shot. She gasped.
Died?
And she goes, their parents die? And you're like, how the fuck do you not know Batman's
this?
story?
What's funny though is then I'll be like, you know that Spider-Man got like Peter Parker got bit by a spider. Like, oh, of course I fucking know that. And I'm like, no.
I want you to
You've lost all
want
of
you
it.
to sit her down and record their reaction. Be like, who is Luke Skywalker's father?
Well, yeah,
and just see if she knows that.
She knows that. But what I'm saying is like once you get into this sci-fi stuff, that's just not something she grew up with. So yeah, Terminator,
of course
not at all.
Oh,
so yeah,
God.
I'm gonna watch Terminator 1 and 2 with her and Matrix 1.
Terminator
Stop
2
there.
is so fucking good.
Yeah.
So good. Still holds up.
Does she know that Solid Snake is actually the bad clone? Like they thought he was the good clone, but the Liquid thought he was the bad clone.
Something tells me she doesn't know
No,
that
man. Play about 40 hours of that. Let her get in there.
Something tells me nobody really knows that one. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it boils down to if you don't want shit spoiled, it's really not that hard to not have something spoiled for you, right?
No, it's impossible now. If you're on the internet, you're getting spoiled.
No, I mean, if
You
you're
cannot watch the Star Wars trailer.
choosing to, right? Like there's
Animated
most people-
gifs out the ass.
Exactly.
You're going to see it.
You're fucked, man. You can't be in a
Potentially.
Facebook group. You can't be on Twitter. It's like it's avoiding spoilers for Game of Thrones. You can get away with. Stay off the internet for the 4 or 5 hours till
Sure.
you watch the episode.
Sure.
You can't last a week.
Oh
It's
no, but
impossible.
that's your fucking that's your bad then at that point. I mean, that's the game we've talked about this a lot. Where we need to decide. I don't know if we ever did, but we need to have an official decision of how long you have to wait before you get to spoil shit. It's okay to spoil shit from Game of Thrones.
But I mean, what? But that
Is a week
conversation,
too
though,
long?
What about
Is
the
it a
trailer
day?
though? Like,
What's that?
When's it going to be okay to openly talk about spoilers from the Star Wars trailer that just came out?
I mean, look, if you can talking about it is the second the trailer comes out. Because at that point the information's out there. It's not your fucking bad, right? I mean, you can't be like, oh no, I don't want to know anything about that trailer. That's a bridge too far. But the people that put the shit in the trailer, they're the ones that need to talk to Jesus. You know what I'm talking about? Like they need to be like, you're spoiling these fucking movies for people, right? I mean, put it in context. Imagine if the Empire Strikes Back trailer showed that spot where it's like at the very end, it's like Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, and it's like Luke,
Father
I'm
and
your
son.
father, and it's like, oh wow, that's cool. Okay, I guess that's out there. Like that's what we're getting these days. So it's like, pull back a little bit, people. Pull
Doomsday,
back.
man. Shouldn't have been in the trailer.
Should not have been the
Agreed.
fucking trailer or the movie. For that, someone said.
Arguments can be made.
Some would say he shouldn't have been in the movie at all. Could have probably had his own movie, you know, where it's just him and Superman.
well, yeah.
There's
You know?
also an
Death of
inconsideration
Superman.
of people as well, though, when it comes to spoilers. Because if I say I haven't seen a movie, like I haven't seen Blade Runner yet, and you guys haven't gone, oh, well, this happens, this happens,
Sure.
this happens. And if it's a slightly older movie, like a movie from last year, I would hope you guys wouldn't do that as well if I said that happened. Maybe go, oh,
If you
well,
told
this is
me
good
I
and
have
good.
not seen this movie, I would not spoil. That's a dick thing to do to spoil it for the person.
Exactly.
Now I did
And-
that to you today, but I asked your question.
Yeah, and
because
I was
It was a
riveted by it.
documentary.
Yeah.
And I drank my entire soda while I listened to you, and I enjoyed it. And now I feel like I don't have to watch
Long
it.
shot.
It's all contextual.
Long shot on
Yeah,
Netflix.
Like if you're Blade Runner, it's like
Gerald's Game on Netflix.
there's not only a chance you are gonna watch Blade Runner,
Right.
But when it comes to a lot of these other movies, like you're not like me spoiling
If
Blade
you-
Runner to Greg, he's not gonna fucking watch it.
Here's
So
the
it
deal.
doesn't matter.
Thank you.
If you
I
said
have
I haven't
taste.
seen The Matrix,
Please
right?
don't.
You're a monster. Greg.
Like, I'm still not going to tell you what happens in The Matrix, but I am going to encourage you to go watch The Matrix, right?
Yeah.
But if we're just talking about The Matrix,
Well, and I would hope you'd
I
call
hate
me
the
a
fucking
dumbass.
person who's like, spoilers, I haven't seen that. I'm like, dude, I'm not the fucking keeper of all the movies. I'm the keeper of a lot of things, but I'm not the keeper.
5 things, I think.
5
right?
to 17 things at this point.
Okay,
right?
so wow,
Keep up with the
so
joke.
Yeah, you missed a spoiler.
But I'm
you
not the
had so
keeper of
many
the shit that
empty.
you have or have not seen. I like to leave room for other things that I can be the keeper of, right?
Mm.
I'm the keeper of spoilers. That's number 4.
Okay. Just to put it in context for you, Tim, again,
Mm-hmm.
I will never see Blade Runner 1 or 2, but I'm seeing Daddy's Home 2 in theaters. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Game Over Greggy show each and every week. 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Horrible. The worst you've ever done. You were way early and still late
I gave
somehow.
you all I've got left. That's it.
If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny where you can toss us a couple bucks, get the shows early, get all the bonuses, get to come on the show like Justin did. Thank you so much for coming in. Did
thanks
you
for
have
having
fun?
me.
Was it worth it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. I was worried about it. I know we were very quiet this morning. We were gathering the news. We were locked out together for a little bit. Things happened, but it was all good.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. If you got no bucks to toss away, of course, go to youtube.com/kindafunny where you get the show topic by topic, day by day, until it goes up as one big MP3 and video the following Friday. Pimp the whiskey one more time.
Scarwhiskey.com.
Okay. When do you think you will have product available for people to buy and us to get drunk on?
In the U.S., it depends. We're hoping sometime middle of next year.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
For an actual aged whiskey, it takes 2 years time.
Of course.
Gotta age it.
Do it right.
Yeah.
Do it right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for having me again.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, it's been our pleasure to serve you.